Today, as we celebrate the feast of St. Augustine, our great father, we try to reflect on the dynamics of his spiritual growth. His spiritual growth is very intimately interwoven with his search for his own humanity, search for his own identity. He was searching for himself. He was searching for achievement. He was searching for honors. He was searching for greatness, for prestige. And yet, he learned later on that what he was thirsting for was really deeper than just greatness, honors, or prestige. He was seeking God himself. This Augustine, who was looking for arguments, debates, was really looking for truth. He was seeking the truth. But not just the truth of human existence, but the truth of God. And this he was able really to rediscover, or to discover and rediscover. He was seeking God. He was seeking God in the love for people. He was seeking God in the poor. He was seeking God in the sick. He was seeking God in the church. He was seeking God everywhere. And therefore, St. Augustine tells us we should learn how to seek. Let our searching be such that we will be sure of finding. And we can be sure of finding only if we seek things, or we search for God in the right place. When we seek things in the wrong places, we will never find them. Like so many people today seek happiness, but they seek happiness in the wrong places. They seek happiness as if happiness is to be attained and to be oriented to the self, to be possessed by the self. But happiness is not something to be possessed. You never will be happy if all you do in life is to accumulate things. You will never be happy if the orientation is always toward the self. Happiness is always the byproduct of something that you do for others. If you become other-centered, then happiness is simply its natural result. And therefore, it is simply a bonus. It is simply a kind of byproduct of something meaningful that you do for others. Seeking happiness, therefore, should not be the goal, but it should simply be the byproduct of a certain goal. When we seek a meaningful life in our journey of faith, when we seek what is true, what is right, what is good, and when we seek God, then the byproduct will be happiness. Happiness is always the result of something that we do for others, something meaningful, something beautiful for others. It is always other-centered. The seeking that characterized the life of Augustine would culminate in finding God. And he would say, "Too late have I loved you, O beauty so ancient and yet so new." So finally he was able to find God. Not from the outside world only, but finding God in himself. finding God in the restlessness of his journey, finding God in the community of friends, in the community of the lovers of God. Because if you are a friend of God or a lover of God, and I am also a lover of God, then we can form a community of the lovers of God. The basis of this community, therefore, is Christian charity. And let our charity be the foundation of every community. St. Augustine is very strong in his words. If there is no charity in your community, God is not there. Because God is love. And if there is no love in your community, God is not there. St. Augustine is very clear and forthright in saying so. And therefore, when we find charity, when we find love, then we find God. And we find God always in the communion of brothers and sisters. That sense of communion is where you find God himself. Friends, brothers, and sisters, the seeking of a restless heart finds charity as its foundation. It finds God, the restless heart finds God in the communion of the lovers of God. Not content with finding God in his heart and in his community of friends, the community of the lovers of God, Augustine wanted to share God himself, to share the divine truth, to share the divine love, to share the divine beauty, to share the divine wisdom. And therefore, Augustine wrote so many books that even our lifetime, would not be enough to read them. And Augustine, therefore, is considered as the great, the saintliest among the wise, the wisest among the saints. Notice that Augustine becomes the foundation of our human heart, because each of us has an Augustine in our heart. The restlessness of our heart defines the restlessness of Augustine. And the restlessness of Augustine's heart also defines the restlessness of the human heart. There is always something common in us, and it is Augustine. If you look at different islands, you will see that these islands are separated or divided by the sea. And we see the island as very far from each other. And yet, if you look at these islands being very far from each other, from one another, you realize that if you remove the sea, you will realize that we are all connected deep down there. We belong to the same landmass. And therefore, if we learn how to go deeper into our lives, we know that we have common aspirations. We have common search. We have a common search for God, a common search for truth, for unity, for peace, for beauty. Who among us does not want beauty, peace, love, truth, wisdom, goodness? We all love God. And therefore, the superficialities of our society are simply the product of those people who do not learn how to go deeper into their lives. The restlessness of the human heart, looking for satisfaction in alcohol, in drugs, in sex, in money, in wealth, in power, all of these superficial aspirations are really the cryptic way of looking for depth. And if we learn how to go deeper and deeper into our lives, then we realize that all we need in life is God. All we need in life is love. The love of God, the love of neighbor. And then we will find true wisdom, true peace, true goodness, true joy. There is always an Augustine in us.